someone who has the authority to say to the system, stop, that's illegal, go back to the legal state. You have the theoretical right. Anyone theoretically can cry Harry still. Have you tried it?
Some people I know have. I haven't had the opportunity yet.
But it's, you see, if you live in a system which chronically ignores the law, don't expect it to work for you when you've got a problem. You live in a system in which you are the lawmaker, it's your responsibility, then you get a completely different result. Yeah, the Constitution allows for a military, but sets very high ethical standards before you can receive military training. So it's not like we want cannon fodder and then afterwards you find out what it's all about when you're in the middle of a battlefield. No, the Kingdom of Germany does the other way around. It really selects for the highest ethical standards before it gives you the training and before it gives you the weapons. So it's the Constitution allows for a professional army, but does not allow that army to be used for any purpose other than defence. So it's only there if some other power attacks the kingdom, then the army can act, but not until then. Oh, it's a very, very good example of this I experienced this morning, because I stayed in a hotel last night. And as you may or may not know, the main aim of the educational system here is to train people out of reasonable thinking, thinking logically. Don't ask questions, obey. And so nobody checks anything, which means that the powers that were get away with murder, literally. Mass murder. Because people just don't check the facts. So this morning came the, what's the word in English? Landlord for breakfast, and I said, yep, vegetarian. Immediately he kind of rejoined, oh, vegetarians don't live any longer. Now, it's a proven fact that they do. Not only do they live on average 15 years longer than meat eaters, they live at 22 years on average healthier, active life longer than meat eaters. He'd never, ever checked the facts. He just assumed that what he'd been told was truth. And then he brought me a pot of tea with the usual junk tea in it, and I was using my fork to fish the tea bags out. And he said, why are you doing that? I said, well, I want to take the tea bags out before the tea gets bitter. And he said, oh, that's quality tea, it doesn't get bitter. I said, no, it's not, it's floor sweepings. He's probably never ever been exposed to quality tea, but all the same, he assumes that because it says quality tea on the box, it is quality tea. And these are so basic examples of how people live their lives, believing labels instead of checking, instead of finding out the facts for themselves. And we've been building it up for 7 years, and this year everything is ready. We're going all out for expansion.
And where is it? In this country?
It's wherever you want it to be.
Oh, I see.
If
so if it's a kingdom,
yeah.
And you said there was a king or a queen, is that right? And they have the power to set things back?
The only power which they have is to, where any government agency has acted beyond the law, to set things back to where they were. That's their only power. To create laws, the only people who can create laws are you in your parish. No one else has any authority to create law.
Sorry, I was going to say, with the police in this country, they swear an oath to the crown, so the crown has the police on their side. In Germany, if there's a police, where would their oath be?
I don't know, I'm not a policeman, but what I do know is that around 80% of the police are of the opinion, if you could provide me with a living, I would immediately become a citizen of the Kingdom of Germany. 80% at least. Now that's not just the police, it's the senior bureaucrats. A very, very large proportion of them say to us, keep going, we will help you as much as we can, create the new state, because that's what we want. We are totally up to the eyeballs with this system. We don't want it anymore, we want an alternative, but we've got to live. So this is what we're doing this year. We're going out and saying, okay, this is how you live without the old system.
I'm sorry, but having lived in Germany and Austria and looking at the history books, I know one of the things was to do away with aristocracy and to have one person having the power to say no. So I can't really see, is it really going to take off? You know, it sounds a bit like it's going
Sorry, could you complete your sentence? Well, you said one person having the power to, but you didn't complete your sentence.
You said before that the king or the queen would have the power that if any law was proposed...
No, I did not say that.
Take that away.
That is not what I said. What I said was that if any government agency acts outside the law, the king has the authority to say to that agency, stop, go back to the legal state, and whatever action that government agency had done to reverse it. That's his sole authority. The monarch is the last guarantor of democracy and freedom. That's her function. We have some land already. We hope to have a lot more. But the agricultural system in the kingdom is spiritual biodynamic. So this is way beyond organic. This is revitalizing the land with a combination of the techniques from Julius Henschel, effective microorganisms, using permaculture, and there are many other techniques which have been developed over the last few decades. And this then combined with the sort of techniques which Anastasia mentioned, but has not gone into in detail, and also were mentioned in the prophecies of Celestine, the Celestine prophecies in English, sorry, of being in community with the plants that you're growing. So the effect of that, the end result of that, is you get about 5 times the effective harvest for about 20% of the cost. And then you cut out the middleman. In any town, there is a farmer's shop, and this is owned by the farmers, and the produce from the farmers is sold in this shop. Could be quite big in a big town. For the villagers, you have recreate the delivery buses. So the buses that are half buses and half bakery, or half vegetable, or half post office. You recreate this because it works at a local level. It ensures prosperity at a local level and is anathema to the multinationals. They can't use it, which is why they bought it up and threw it away. So the kingdom doesn't go back to that, it creates a new version of that. So one of the principal aims of the kingdom in the area of health is to create a chronically healthy people.
Idea of having a king or queen, would you create people select that king or queen? Would that be a family that then...
No. the monarch is elected by open vote of all citizens. The candidates for the monarchy will be well known, usually well known, for a number of years before an election takes place. So the people will have had plenty of opportunity to judge what sort of person is this candidate. The reigning monarch will suggest or nominate possible successors, and the reigning monarch will decide when he or she lays down the load and the successor takes up, except in circumstances where either through illness or injury or old age the monarch is no longer able to carry out his or her duties, in which case the successor will take over. The National Council has the authority to nominate a temporary monarch for eventualities where perhaps the monarch has suddenly died without a successor being fully trained. But that temporary state has to be corrected by national vote of a new monarch.
Are decisions supported by this National Council?
Pardon?
You mentioned the parishes and the decision making, and you've mentioned now a National Council. So are members of the National Council responsible for the sane and sensible decision making of the monarch as well, or advisory capacity?
The councils, so you would have perhaps a regional council, a state council, a national council, and possibly other things in between with special functions. Their job is to coordinate the work of the parishes. They have no authority to dictate anything. Their function is purely coordinating and advisory. That's what they're there for. In order to sit on a coordinated committee, you have to prove by public examination that you're competent to do so. So, for example, a motor mechanic could sit on a special council to deal with hand workers, but he couldn't sit on a special council to deal with public health, because he's no expertise. So, you know, it's horses for courses. If you want to do that, you've got to prove, not only from your track record, but also by public examination, that you are competent to advise in that area. Yeah?
What happens to people who aren't good at examinations?
Well, there are many options. One is you can remain a citizen. One is you can indulge in therapy, which the National Health Service would pay for, to remove your the problem itself which is causing the effect. Or you could just go and live in a cave. Entirely up to you. Yeah, you've been... There is a very, very large part of the daily life in the kingdom is that sort of training. Some in much more detail than others. You see, the thing you have to bear in mind, there are many, many ramifications of living in a tax-free country. Now, if you're working 40 hours a week for £2,000, of which you actually end up owning about 200, and suddenly, from this 2,000, you keep all 2,000, are you going to keep working 40 hours a week? Are you? A normal working week within the kingdom is 20 to 25 hours, and that's only because there's so much to be done right now, and so few people there to do it. But it's to be expected that a normal working week would be between 15 and 20 hours. What are you going to do with the rest of your time? one of the objectives of setting up the state, a tax-free state, so that people don't have to work until they drop, is so that this free time becomes available for creativity. Because it's the creativity which creates the wealth. And if that creativity and the wealth remains with the people, then it just gets more and more, and the country, the land, the planet becomes healthier, happier. Once everybody is participating in the abundance instead of a tiny elite sucking it all out. So, where were we? We're almost completed point 1. What did I say? Oh, I see, right, okay. Can't remember writing, yeah. I just want to say a few more words about the Constitution. And I do encourage everyone to read it. It's a beautiful document. It's a piece of poetry. The music of freedom. Once you've read that and understand it, you know exactly where it's going. And it's somewhere completely different to where humanity has been up to date. As I say, it's one of the few things from the kingdom which has already been translated into English. Gradually, more and more is being translated into English, Spanish, Italian, Polish. I don't know what else. To some extent, I'm doing the English translations, but it's a case of, you know, getting the time to do it. So, we've done a bit about what is the Kingdom of Germany. But what we haven't made totally clear is what the Kingdom of Germany is actually about. And it's about showing that the grass is greener somewhere else. You see, you can't frighten people into being creative. You can't frighten people into love and compassion. You can't frighten people into wealth. They close up. They don't move. But if you show them that the grass is much greener over there, and there's room for you to live there as well, they put the boots on and start walking. The Kingdom of Germany is about creating an environment in which everyone, by law, in the Constitution itself, it's almost compulsory to develop your abilities to the maximum potential. Almost compulsory. But it's that level of awareness. That is that which prevents the elite from reforming. Everyone knowing who they are, what they can, and working together as a community. And bear in mind, we've had a lot of practice living in community, just that we haven't been doing it properly for the last couple of thousand years. But even your body is a community of 70 trillion cells. Mankind is a community of just under 7 billion individuals, but it is one organism. Just as if your body is poisoned, it starts showing you that as an illness. So the planet, humanity, will show you poisoning by displaying illness. And this humanity is a very sick creature at the moment. And it's our responsibility to heal it, because we are part of it. Without it, we won't survive. Without us, it won't survive. We are it. So something which is created expressly to achieve that optimal health, physically, mentally, spiritually, environmentally, That is what humanity and the planet needs. And that, as you read in the Constitution, is the principal aims of the Kingdom of Germany. So, next point is, oh yeah, we've already mentioned this in brief, but just to make it clear, any community anywhere which has a specific geographical locality, this could be just a street in a town, but if you get together and say, okay, we are a parish, for want of a better word, you can then, as a community, by majority vote, decide to become a part of the Kingdom of Germany. You do that by international law, you are now a part of the Kingdom of Germany. Now it's much more useful if a much larger area does it. So, let's take an example. Glastonbury. What would happen to Glastonbury if it became part of the Kingdom of Germany? Well, it's quite heavily burdened with old debt at the moment. But there is a way, legal way, of getting out of this debt, which has been worked out in the kingdom based upon not German law but international law, which means that within 12 months that community is debt-free completely. It's a tax-free city, which makes it not only attractive for people outside but also means that within the city itself suddenly there are no taxes and there are no interest on what you're buying and selling. What happens to the prices? Do they go down? Some probably will. But because your purchasing power goes up dramatically, you can buy a lot more of what you want and you can buy quality. The whole of the system economically for the last 100 years has been based upon forcing people to buy always less and less quality and focusing purely on the price. The cheapest is that what you should buy, and the cheapest is usually the one which is the most poisonous. Turn that around. Increase everyone's income by at least 5, in the sense of cash in your pocket. And you don't go to the cheapest supermarket anymore, you go to the whole food shop to buy your vegetables, or you go to the farm shop producing and selling organic vegetables, with the result that your health increases, with the result that healthcare costs fall. There's lots and lots and lots of knock-on effects from becoming a tax-free country, and they work to everyone's advantage apart from the banking cartel.